central to some of these startup events. They, hosted Ekiden up in Michigan a few years ago, and really liked the idea of bringing these teams together and trying to compete, in a team format. It's less about time, it's more about racing, and that kind of helps, kind of even out the schedule, because so much of what you're doing in your training is all about getting ready for those high performance individual opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're right. I mean, all these programs that are trying different things and putting on these races, it's what it's all about, keeping it fresh, keeping it exciting. But I do think it's really cool that we're seeing another cross country event. This is such a great sport. So many people want it in the Olympics, and the athletes love it too. So the more we can get it out there and the more we can get athletes that are at this high level to race it, I think we're going to, keep it as part of our sport and really important. We don't want it to end at the NCAA level. We don't want it just to be a world championship event every other year. We want this to be something that sticks around. So I love that they're having it.
Well, in this event, part of the World Athletics Cross Country Series, the governing body of the sport on a global level, really trying to, use cohesive schedules and encourage the development of races in all of the major regions of the country. And so this event here in Austin, laying the groundwork hopefully for more events like this for the post-collegiate professionals during the course of the cross-country season, which has been great. You and I have been part of a lot of great calls of cross-country action. You were back in Virginia just a week or so ago with the call of the NCAA championships. The high school events are coming to a conclusion here in the next couple of weeks with major races in Portland and in San Diego. And, again, it's just a testament to really just the ability for this sport now to have sort of a year calendar cadence where you shift from these cross-country events and onto the indoor season. And, it's a world championship year of the indoor season next year. You got the Olympic trials and the marathon, and then obviously the road to Paris will take up much of our attention. But there is no downtime. You and I were talking about schedules. I mean, maybe sneaking in a couple of weeks here towards the tail end of December, but we're right back into racing, start January 1.
Yeah, and even in the summer, I mean, it's World Championships, Olympics, and, World Championships. These athletes are going hard. And so I do think that it's nice for them. And a lot of people said as they wanted this race to break it up because they've been on this high. A lot of athletes have been on a high. They come down a little bit. They need something to mix up the training, to get the mind right and get going, because it is a big year. The Olympic trials for the marathoners are in February. Then again, for the track athletes, late June, early July. It's just boom, boom, boom.
So final moments of reflection here at the start line before the racing begins of the 2023 Cross Champs. This is the Maurten Women's 8K. And again, 4 athletes across the line for each team will make up the team score here. And got Born to Run, Hanson Brooks, Hoka NAZ Elite, Idaho Afoot, and UA Mission Run Baltimore. Those are our teams where we believe they have enough members to score, and a few other individuals sprinkled in here as well. Smaller field on the women's side today. A little bit bigger field will toe the line when the men come up at the just after the top of the hour local time here in Austin, Texas. Pleased that you're joining us here for the call. A reminder that Des Linden will also be part of the broadcast. We'll get an update from her mid-race and then also have her at the finish line, hopefully with some interviews with our winning individual and hopefully a chat with our winning team as well.
Well, as we're waiting and looking at these, just looking at the ladies in the purple and pink right there, can we give a little shout out to Coach Rogers with the Under Armour Mission Run Baltimore? She's having a baby any day, little girl, so she could travel with them, but congratulations and good luck on everything, Coach Rogers.
As we mentioned, there was a community run that preceded this race at the top of the last hour, and perhaps a few of those runners still getting across the line, so our timing systems can be reset and be set for the racing here in the Maurten Women's 8K. at the 2023 Cross Champs in Austin, Texas. See bib 100 on the far right of your screen. Erin Jascott didn't get penalized today, Carrie, but she wasn't supposed to be wearing bib 100. She was supposed to be wearing bib 91 to be sequential with all of her teammates. However, she forgot her bib when she arrived on site, so issued the only triple-digit number on the women's side. I guess it'll make it easy to ID her during the course of the race. Maybe it was strategic.
Well, maybe because we were just talking about her coach having a baby, she was thinking about bibs and just, forgot the right bib.
Some of the other folks on her team, Ellie Leather, bib number 93. Courtney Barnes wearing bib number 90. And the aforementioned Jascott, Abby Kohut-Jackson, also in the field, trying to kind of turn the page on a track season that she said wasn't exactly what she had hoped it would be, and that's kind of the opportunity and the reset button for a lot of these athletes coming into this fall training block, and again, just stepping onto a competitive line in the middle of that sort of reset for the road to next year's track season. This is a good thing to mix up the training with a relatively friendly competitive atmosphere.
Well, and two, I just think cross country is so good for us to really see how tough we can be. I mean, it's hard. You would think on a flat course you don't have to really work too much, but it is uneven and there's a lot of muscles that go into it as they toe the line.
And the horn sounds, the timers are ready, and so are the racers. We're underway in Austin, Texas. It's the Cross Champs in 2023. This is the Maurten Women's Championship race at 8K today on a little bit of a drizzly day in Austin, Texas, but they're out onto the course. Carry again, flat racing conditions, so they'll see those hay bales a few times. That'll come kind of halfway around all of these loops. It'll be 5 loops of this course to get them to that 8K mark.
If you can see right in the middle there, the woman in the hat, that's Katie Izzo. She actually is coming off of a really good half marathon, her first half marathon where she ran 1:10:44 at the Indy Monumental. So she punched her ticket to the Olympic trials, and she said this was important for her to drop down a little bit in distance, have a little bit of fun, reset like you've already said, Paul, and then get going for the trials if that's what she chooses to do. But coming down in distance now, getting that leg turnover back is important for a lot of these athletes that have been doing a lot of the long, slow, base training that they're all in right now.
And there are the hay bales as they get over there. Last year they had a choice to avoid those hay bales, Carrie. This time it looks like they're right in the middle of it, and everyone's going to have to face them. So we'll see if those play into anyone's strategy as they traverse them for the very first time, but they'll see them 4 additional times here. You can see the moisture on the ground as well as they get themselves out onto this area of the course that actually will weave them through some of those legacy aircraft on the Camp Mabry Air Park. And alongside the main thoroughfare here, that's bib 77. That's Cassie Parker. Had a nice year when she had a standout year at the Division III level this year.
Yeah, she's been busy this fall. She ran the 5K in New York City the day before the marathon. Then she ran Manchester Road Race just over on Thanksgiving, actually. So she's putting in kind of a nice little early part of the year where she's getting in some races. And, when you're coming off of a college career like that, you're used to having those races to, sort of taper down each week or every other week. And so it's nice that they have the opportunity to do that. As pros, she'll get used to maybe not having to race as much, but I love to do it. I think that it kept my mind engaged. It kept me excited about training. And so not surprising to see a lot of these younger athletes out here taking advantage of races that they can.
Bib 84 on the left side of your screen, that's Dana Klein of Idaho afoot. Mentioned she is looking to make it back to the Olympic trials for the Paris qualifier in 2024 after towing the line for the trials on the road to Tokyo when the trials in that case were held in that 2021 pandemic added year to the Olympic quadrennial. Katie Wasserman in center of picture there, kind of comfortable alongside Abby Nichols, her teammate from Hoka NAZ Elite, and Cassie Parker on the left side of your screen from Hanson's Brooks. But a fairly solid group here in the front here to start. Carrie, first loop of 5 in this Maurten women's 8-kilometer cross champs race. To start our schedule here, the men will follow shortly after the conclusion of this women's race.
Yeah, seeing all the NAZ elite athletes up there, one of the things that I love that Ben Rosario texted me, he said, both the coaches, Jack Mullany and Jenna Weirden, who Jenna's been there for a number of years, but Jack is new to the program. They said they wanted to bring the athletes here to bond together, to have this time on the course together, because a lot of times, you are bonding in practice or sitting around at a track meet, but being out on the course, you really become a family. And so I love that he said that. This was a chance for them to bond, to have some fun together, and to really just go and hammer each other hard. And I think that's the big thing. Go out there, see how hard you can run, and then go back and use all the new information that you get from running a hard race and put it into your training.
Well, like you mentioned earlier on, not only is that team bonding good for those who've been running with each other for a while, but also involves, the newbies on these respective squads. And up there near the front, Mercy Chalangat at bib number 79, kind of in and out of picture behind Dana Klein there on the right side of your screen, also in the Hoka kit, getting her kind of professional career going. And this race is for her another way to test her fitness against some of the best racers in the country.
I mean, Mercy Chalangat has just done so well in her collegiate career when she was at Alabama. And then she came out. She was going to race here at the Twin Cities 10 mile, but it was canceled here. So she had to postpone her pro debut. And then she ran the BAA half on November 18th and ran 1:11. So she's clearly in great shape. She's coming around just right in time when they need her to see where she's at and to see that strength that they can do up at Flagstaff where she's now moved. It's working. It's going well.
Well, they crossed the 1 mile timing apron, and there is on the left side of your screen the real-time updated results of the leaders here after Loop 1 of the Maurten Women's 8K with Dana Klein, Katie Wasserman, and Cassie Parker 1, 2, and 3. But it's a pretty solid group up there in front. Got to go down to, 17th place in Chrissy Gear, where, you're about 2.5 seconds between the leaders. You can see Chrissy now back behind that group, kind of falling out of the back a little bit. So, perhaps a group of about 15, 16 now here in this lead pack.
Well, we saw such an exciting race with Chrissy Gear, as you were talking about her off the lead pack there just a little bit. But, that wind-up that she had last outdoors when she won her first USATF steeplechase championship, I mean, she just held herself together. We don't know where she's necessarily coming from. She doesn't have many races, if any races, since this last summer. I think the last time she raced was at the World Championship. So working herself into fitness is maybe what this race is for her. But again, never count her out because we couldn't outdoors. We saw her break the tape from behind. So she might just be taking her time working herself into this longer race than we've seen her run in a long time.
This is loop number 2 of 5 for the women here in Austin, Texas. And Cassie Parker now pressing the race here from the front.
So we've been talking about a lot of the younger athletes, Paul, but I do have to give a shout out to Dot McMahon. I made some notes on her. I think she's running in her 5th Olympic trials. It might be her 4th, but I thought I counted. This was number 5, and she's a little bit older than I am, and I kind of feel bad that I'm not out there racing with her. So she's only like 6 months older than me, but 47 years old now and still getting after it. I know that she, like me, is just trying to keep up with her daughter because her daughter's super fast now. So she runs for Hansons-Brooks. She's off the pack. You can see her back there, but shout out to Dot McMahon. She's still doing it.
Continuing to weave their way through this Camp Mabry Air Park. Marissa Howard of Idaho footbib number 83 there up alongside Cassie Parker, kind of semi-battling for the lead. And, you know, Marissa's one of those that is just coming off of her competitive season. And when I say that, it's on the track because she was competing down at the Pan American Games in Chile back in early November.
Yeah, there are some of these athletes in both the men and women's race that competed there, and that is so fun, but also really awkward to run that late in the year track race. You know, I wonder how her training, I didn't get to ask her how her training was. Was she really sharp? Was she just going in? And a lot of those races seemed as if they were more of a sit and kick, because I do think the fitness wasn't necessarily there to really run hard and hammer from the front. But yeah, pretty cool that she was able to do that and get over and make her first team.
Cassie Parker once
Another
again
athlete.
steps, sorry, to the lead. Carrie, go ahead.
Yeah, another athlete that's in this race, Emily Venter, she was over at Pan Am's as well, and she got sick over there, so she didn't get to race. So you know that she's ready to come back here and have a little revenge. Because if you travel that far and you don't get to wear the red, white, and blue, it's a sting that you won't forget.
That was one of the nice things about having, if there was any silver lining to a late-stage Pan American Games, Carrie, is that it afforded a lot of opportunity to athletes who hadn't worn a national kit to go through that process, you know, team processing, traveling with the team, you know, going to a major event and going through the rounds. And those are types of experiences. And, you know, you had some folks who had never done it before, and then you had, you know, some of the bigger names in the sport. We had a couple of our, you know, best hammer throwers were down there on the women's side, Indiana Price and Brooke Anderson, and a few others who, you know, saw it as an opportunity to just kind of continue to train and compete. And in the case of this cross champs, we're coming up on the conclusion of the second visit around Camp Mabry. Again, 5 loops of this course, so we'll reset the field here as they go through a little bit quicker on the second mile. Carry 5:21 for Katie Wasserman, with Cassie Parker, Abby Nichols, and Katie Izzo in the hat, kind of just lurking there in the middle of the group, along with Marissa Howard, Mercy Chalangat, Dana Klein, Ellie Leather, Julie Spinks, and Angie Rafter, and also Courtney Barnes up there near the top, and that a group of 11 now. So we've kind of lost about a half dozen from that first loop, Carrie, and now almost into single digits in the lead pack.
Oh, the burn of cross country, it gets you. And I think a lot of these athletes remember that from back in the day if they haven't been racing over the grass. But then also these younger athletes know that. So sometimes taking that first lap easier, getting yourself into the race, and then really starting to hammer, that's what happens. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. You know, like they say, they throw the gloves off, we're throwing the gloves off.
Well, the leaders now out on loop number 3 of 5 here at Camp Mabry Air Park as we roll on through the Maurten Women's 8K here at the 2023 Cross Champs. Hitting the hay bales again And making quick work of it is Cassie Parker as she continues to hold on to the lead. So as the women get back towards the air park and the airplanes, let's check in with Deslinden.
Good morning,
for a course
Paul
report.
and Carrie. Deslinden here in Austin on the ground. It's a beautiful cross-country morning, great for running. It's perfect cross-country conditions. You're seeing the course behind us. It's 5 loops on this and really spectator-friendly. Right behind the camera here on the other side, the Indy 5K is just wrapped up, so there's a bunch of runners that are slowly warming up from their run, heading over to the course, and as I think the race develops on the course, the sidelines are going to fill in, the energy is going to go up, and we're going to have a really great time here in Austin. So keep watching the races, stay tuned in, and we'll see how this thing develops and catch up with the finishers at the end.
Thanks very much, Des. Good to have you involved in another show as she is part of that running event. We'll see a lot of those athletes. Of course, like you, Carrie, she's a multimedia goddess. She has a successful podcast. She's still running competitively. She knows a thing about coffee and perhaps some bourbon to end the night. Just a woman of many talents.
She is, and she just loves this sport. I love how she mixes it up all the time. Now we're seeing her dabble in those ultra races, but still getting after it, and still loves all the elements that the weather gives us. We know that there's been lots of talk about the time at Orlando and the marathon, and Des is the one that's like, come on, bring it, whatever time it is, I'm ready for it. And it's just fun to watch her continue to really get a lot out of this sport.
So that countdown to Orlando continues for the Olympic trials in early February. Meantime, on the last day of November in 2023, we're here in Austin, Texas. The Maurten Women's 8K is part of the cross champs here in Austin, and the lead group here out on the third of 5 loops at Camp Mabry's Air Park. And it's been pretty much a stable group here at the front, though it has started to shed a few runners on the last loop. We had about 16, 17 in the lead pack after the first mile. It dwindled to about 11 after the second mile. And here now, as they work their way through mile number 3, we're down to 7 athletes, looks like, Carrie, as we work our way through past the halfway point of the race.
Well, Katie Wasserman, who's up in the lead there for NAZ Elite, and she ran last year the USATF Club Nationals, which is in the early part end of the year, So she ran that race and set herself up so well for her track season. She set PBs and everything from the 1500 all the way up to the 5000. And you could see that maybe she was thinking, it worked for me last year. I'm going to do another cross race this year. And so fun to see that she's out here leading this pack of her teammates, but also just seeing how she is, and if she can have as great of a year as she did last year. I mean, she went under 8:50 for the 3K. She cracked 15:15 for the 5. It really was a nice way for her to start her year.
.16 now elapsed on the clock here in Austin, Texas, as the lead group. You can see some of those everyday runners out in the background. They had their chance to run just a little bit earlier out on this course. Now it's time for the elites to be on, and we're going to get to that next split here, as again, it was about 5:21 on the previous mile, Carrie, and they continue to click a little bit quicker. This time just a second quicker, 5:20.4 the split for Casey Wasserman as she comes through. But you can see that top 7 now with Wasserman, Howard, Nichols, Izzo, Parker, Klein, and Chlangat. And then back to Rafter, about 8 seconds back, and Leather. And again, we're also keeping an eye on that team score. A little bit different scoring format here than you might see at your typical collegiate cross-country race, where we'll only have the top 4 runners score for the purposes of the team race here at Hoka right now, with a 21-point score with placings at 1st, 3rd, 6th, and 11th, and Idaho afoot. You can see there now coming through in 2nd. That arrow next to Under Armour Mission Run Baltimore just means that they've been improving their positioning, but they now are still 12 points back of Idaho a foot as they go out for this penultimate loop of 5 in Austin.
Well, this is sort of where we saw movement last year. Alicia Munson was the one that ended up winning, but she had Edna Kerr got there and Emily Infeld, I believe, and those 3 pulled away right about here. There was a bigger pack, and they really started to see that they were trying to get that long grind out and to work that final stages of the race. And that's where you can see now their athletes are a little bit more serious. They're putting a little bit more oomph in their stride. You can see that the faces are looking good. They're all kind of focused, and that's what happens. Like the first few laps seems like they're getting into it, but now it's time. It's time for them to figure out if they have to have a long drive home or wait till the final kick.
Fans getting up close and personal with the athletes there as well. So we near 18 and a half minutes on the clock here in Austin. Back alongside those vintage aircraft and helicopters on the Camp Mabry Air Park base. And a look at that lead group. Still 7 carry in that lead group. And, taking advantage of this wide part of the course where no one really wanted to take full control of the race at this point.
No, I mean, I think it's scary, right, to be the one up there that decides to go for it. But I think we will see a little bit of movement soon. They still have probably, 6-7 minutes left of racing, a little bit more than that. So it's still a ways out, but you know that they're thinking. This is where the mind starts to turn on, Paul. You try to turn your mind off for most of the race. Just let the body go through the motions. You don't want to be thinking about the pain you're in or what everyone else is feeling. But now you have to engage. You have to engage your body, engage your mind, start thinking about where your teammates are, if that's what you're thinking about as a team competitor, or if you're individual like Katie Izzo. Right now, Katie just can worry about herself. She's not thinking about her team. She's thinking about getting to the finish line and having the best race she can. So lots of different things go into this, but now is really where these athletes are starting to think. And that could be a really hard thing to do when you're out there hurting and you're trying to think about how far you have left, when you're going to kick. There's a lot going on upstairs.
Well, and Carrie, as you mentioned, sort of like turning your brain off. How hard is that to do though in cross country? I mean, it's not, you're not on a track where you're comfortable with what's underfoot. It's just going to be a track surface, and you're going around in circles, or on a road where you kind of know that it's going to be a comfortable surface. Here in cross country, the course is deteriorating. You got a hay bale or two you got to traverse as well. The footing isn't as stable. It seems like the brain never really is able to get fully turned off.
Well, what I like about this course is it is similar to track where you have those loops. So a lot of these athletes that are very good on the track can kind of, hone into it almost like it's a mile, right? Yes, it's 5 laps, but you think about it sort of like, okay, I get through 1 lap, then 2 laps, 3 laps. But there's not a hill. There are the hay bales, so you have to think about maybe the 4th time I go over a hay bale, I'm going to do this or that. Cross country is so fun that way, where you can sort of turn that brain off and run for a couple minutes without really having to engage. When you're on the track, you're sort of thinking all the time, and that's one of the hardest things. The best advice I was given in college especially was turn your brain off and run. Quit thinking. Just go compete.
Well, they make that turn for home once again, and just as they do that, Carrie, that group of 7 beginning to decompress just a little bit as they'll gear up for what will be the final mile race to the finish line, led by Katie Wasserman here in front for Hoka NAZ Elite. Mercy Chalanga alongside Kate Izzo is there, along with Abby Nichols. And yes, it was again a quicker mile, so every mile has been quicker, Carrie. 5:16 for Wasserman, so definitely picked up the pace there on the penultimate mile, and now the race to the finish begins.
The wind up is what is happening right now, and I love it. We saw such a fun NCAA cross country race on the women's side. Parker Valby was way out in front pretty much after a K, but then we saw that team battle with NC State, having one of their top athletes not be able to toe the line. Camille could not get out there and race, but then we had our top competitor for NC State Tui, she got out there and was sick as a dog, and they competed together for their teammates. And look at these three up front. Yes, we have the individual on the shoulder, but those three from NAZ Elite, you know they're working together. They know their teammates, and they're like sisters. So it's kind of fun to see it.
You can see Hoka NAZ Elite's team score now at just 14 points, and the trio, one more athlete. That's Chrissy Gear, who's back a little bit away from the leaders, but makes that fourth place finisher at 8 points, down to 14 points. So they're really kind of controlling this team race right now. And Chalangat and Katie Wasserman now leading side by side. And Katie Izzo not letting them get away just yet, but now it looks like it may be down to 3.
Well, Chalangat knows how to race. She knows how to win. You're two-time NCAA champion, once in track, once in cross country, but also many podium finishes. She knows how to finish, and that's what you have to do in these pro races. The big thing in the pro races, you got to remember, there's a lot of NCAA champions. There's a lot of people that know how to race well, and she clearly, in her first year as a pro, is adapting really well. She looks great right now.
So the equivalent of the backstretch here in Austin, Texas at Camp Mabry Air Park, as the trio here closing in on the last half mile of racing at the 2023 Cross Champs. Katie Wasserman, bib 82. Katie Izzo in the center of picture, bib 64. And Mercy Chalangat, bib number 79. Wasserman now with a little bit of an advantage. These twists and turns, there's a little bit of angles here. You can see Chalangat and her elbow knocking against one of those rails here. So dangerous point of the course here. And now you see a move by Wasserman trying to break away, and Izzo trying to cover that move now.
Well, Wasserman has a 4:08 1,500 meters PB and also a 4:27 miles. She's not coming off of a half marathon like the two ladies next to her. So does she have a little more pep? We'll have to see, but she has been leading this race. Now we have Katie Izzo on her. You can see she's almost like looking down, like trying to grind it out. Coming off of that recent half marathon, she might be a little bit sluggish, but she looks good too. She's got great pop off the ground, and it's soggy out there.
Chalangat's just about 2.5, maybe 3 strides behind here. Can she find something left in the tank here in the closing stretches? They're on kind of this sweeping last little loop. They're going to come turn around again, head back alongside, parallel to the finish line, and then that hard turn for home and the sprint to the finish now strung out a little bit more. You can see Wasserman going to the arms as much as she can, and now begins to maybe break a little bit away from Izzo.
I like that she's going for it right now. I think she has to break these ladies. She's trying as hard as she can. She's been the one out there dictating this race. Let's see if she can hold on to it.
As the leaders start to make up ground on some of the other athletes out on the course here at the 2023 Cross Champs, the Maurten Women's 8K in its final few strides as Katie Wasserman makes the turn for home. Wasserman and Izzo Chalangat just trying now to hold on for third as they get switched off now into the closing finish line stretch. Wasserman with the lead, Izzo in second. And Wasserman was actually on the outside of the course there, almost disaster, but presence of mind of one of the spectators there, or coaches, that got her back into the chute. She is trying to find her way to the finish. Izzo trying to catch her. What some twists and turns we saw there in the final close, but Katie Wasserman figures it out and is the Cross Champs champion. Izzo will be second. Chalangat will finish in third as Hoka NAZ Elite enjoying a strong performance at the front, and that will continue here as they'll pick up fourth place as well with Abby Nichols And then Marissa Howard and Dana Klein. Great performance for the two from Idaho afoot as they finish in 5th and 6th, respectively.
Well, keeping her composure there, you know, you could really get frazzled, but she was in her final stages and she was in full tilt in her sprint and she kept it together, did not run anything shorter, if anything ran longer, so hopefully that stands. But here comes Chrissy Gear crossing the finish line for NAZ Elite. I think that's their 4th. So it looks like they should be the ones to take the team title, but what a great race.
Yeah, you know, maybe Des will ask her if she saw a friend, you know, on the court and wanted to just go say hi. But, you know, that was disaster averted. And again, great job by the folks there in that final kind of closing area of the course to get her back onto the right side of those flags and out onto the course as the rest of the field begins to make their way across the finish line. We'll keep our cameras here on the finish line so you can see maybe someone you've been tuning in to watch finish up as well. We just saw Kinsey Middleton of Idaho Foot getting across the line, the 4th member of Idaho Foot. It looks like they'll finish 2nd overall in the team standings. Lindsay Adams. But a 5:16 last mile for Wasserman as she closes out the victory here and set the tone for the team race as well as her teammates joined her as members of the winning team here on the women's side. 14 points for Hoka NAZ Elite. There you see their spread of just under a minute between Wasserman and Chrissy Gear. Idaho Foot finishing in 2nd, and UA Mission Run Baltimore in a tie with Hanson Brooks. And we'll have momentarily a chance to hear from Katie Wasserman and what was going through her mind in those final stages. The good news is she did find the finish line, and she has now found Des Linden as well.
Congratulations, Katie. What a race out there. You guys were packed up with the NAZ group for quite a ways. What were the team tactics like early, and then what was the decision making where it was every woman for herself? How was that?
Yeah, well, I train with Abby, Mercy, Chrissy every day up in Flagstaff, so we kind of went into it being like, okay, we'll just work together in those beginning laps of the race, and that's what we did. Abby was always next to me, Mercy was always next to me, and I was like, all right, I can be here if they're here. And then once we hit that 4th lap, I knew, all right, mile left, last lap, I'm just gonna try to go for it. I've never run an 8K before, so I was like, all right, I have to make sure I can make it to the final lap before I decide to push. But then we came and I was feeling good, and I was like, all right, it's time to go, I guess.
First 8K, so you ran a PR. I think what the people really want to know is, have you even done speed work yet?
Oh gosh, that's a loaded question. No, I mean, we're trying to just keep it all long tempos, which is really helpful for me. Longer tempos than I've ever done before coming into this race. So yeah, just that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Congratulations, and enjoy the victory.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Des. We'll hear from the men's winner here. That race coming up here in just a few minutes. A little delay to start the women's race, so the men's race starting in just a few minutes from now. But a great finish by the women here on the course in Austin, Texas for the Maurten Women's 8K. And after a near disastrous diversion from the main part of the race course, Katie Wasserman found her way home and took the victory. The men's race is coming up shortly. Stick around.